All right, so look at my toughness. Look at that. 2 hits. 2 hits, and I only go down to 198 health. I could take like 4 hits before losing 20 health from Auric level enemies. So let's talk about the Zealot and his meta, because Zealot has also gotten stronger, but again, they tried to nerf his survivability, but he is like unarguably more tanky now than he was before. All right, so dueling sword. You can drop Unyielding for Flak if you want to have an easier time one-shotting Ragers, because Zealot now deals less damage than Veteran. What a world. But I still like Unyielding for bosses. You could use the Bolt Gun to spam into bosses. So Zealot actually has 3 options that are all kind of competing against one another. I think the Flamer is overall better, and let me show you why. Because the Flamer does something really, really nice that you really want out of your secondary weapon and you can't really get elsewhere. We don't need Crushers to show this. Give me the Executioner. Okay. So let me just spawn a bunch of these guys. Right, let's say you're playing Havoc. Let me put a situation in front of you, right? You're playing Havoc. This fucking dog shit abysmal garbage spawns. So now you just hit him with this. Get them all fully stacked up. And then you build up Uncanny Strike stacks. And what do you know? All that dog shit is mostly gone. Now, if we do the same thing with our Crusher friend over here. Let me just stack this guy up real quick. We do the same thing with our good buddy, the Crusher. And then if you go back and reapply the flames while you're fighting them, you can see how this can provide quite a lot of utility. It's just your best way to deal with large groups of enemies and of armor packs. And the dueling sword is still just the dueling sword. Now, for the Flamer, you got to be careful. Penetrating Flame is really good sometimes. This is where you need organization. If you just want a generic default, I would run Penetrating Flame. Just so that your teammates and their dots are always, even if their uncanny falls off, still getting most of the damage through. But you can run Overpressure if you don't like Penetrating Flame. I would stick with Flak and Carapace purely because your damage on these guys is still amazing and you don't really have to worry about increasing your damage against them. You also really should just be letting, what's his gay-ass name, Psyker handle that. And you aren't really gonna... Overpressure is not gonna help you reach much better breakpoints against these guys. You can... Instead, if you don't like this, I would use the bolt gun if you don't like the Flamer. You can use the revolver. And I would save the revolver for a very specific circumstance. If you're not going to use Blades of Faith and you're going to use Stun Storms. Because, believe it or not, these are directly competing with these now. Hallelujah, holy shit. And that means you don't have to run Blades of Faith 24/7 if you don't want to. So if you'd rather use stun grenades, you can keep the revolver so you can just be fighting, quickly pull this shit out, deal with that guy. Alright, so I like toughness, combat ability, toughness, stamina regen. Feel free to use stamina if you'd like. I just feel like it's not needed in this patch at all, and more toughness is better than stamina in this patch. So, let's go over the skill tree. Disdain is something you don't want to take, but, you know, You can take Anointed Blood with a spare point if you can find one, if you think there's something really not critical here, but you'll see. Second Wind is still Second Wind. This is still just 15 toughness like every second. Duelist has been heavily nerfed, but it's still Duelist. It still gives a bunch of damage. There's still no reason not to take it. Though we do lose Purge the Unclean and Anointed Blood, which does make the Flamer a bit worse. So, Blades of Faith are still obviously the best blitz, but it depends on a lot of factors, you know, like can you aim? Because being able to just quickly deal with all of this shit in one, like, immediate go, and if I build up Uncanny Strike real quick, you know, being able to just, like, decide things are getting deleted is still very, very good. and they're also unlimited, so you never have to use them in a box. So you can feed grenades to your veteran or Ogryn who benefit from grenades more. But because you no longer the reason you always use Blades of Faith was, one, they're the best blitz in the game next to frag grenades. Two, the right side path was too overpowered to miss those talents. But you could totally drop this for stun storms now. I wouldn't, because I think stun storms are worse, but if you like them. Also, with uncanny stacking, another thing I should say, if you want to go revolver, another thing you could do instead of stun storms is immolations. Really, you can pick whatever grenade you'd like now, which this is actually like the best part of these talent reworks that they did. And when I reassessed the skill tree, this actually changes a lot. Zealot has an amazing blitz selection now. He went from some of the worst to some of the best, but anyway. Pick whatever synergizes with your build more. If you're going to use Flamer, you have to use Blades of Faith. If you're going to use Bolter, I'd recommend Blades of Faith if you want to animation cancel, or just not stop the melee spree to deal with a gunner or two. If you're going to use stun storms, use the revolver. If you're going to use the revolver, you could use immolation grenades as well. Okay, every build needs Until Death now, which, sure. I don't like Holy Revenant because I don't care about spending a skill point to get a maximum of 25% health back. I don't think 25% of my health is going to make a difference just about ever. I really don't have anything else to say about this. So Thy Wrath Be Swift is just kind of cool, but really you're more so taking it for good balance. Now, if you decide you don't want this stuff, you want to live without good balance, you could get it this way. And now you have 1 talent point and good balance, and now you can spend this wherever you'd like. But Providence sucks, I'm not going to lie. These skills that help you revive people, and they only give buffs for a couple seconds, are terrible. And Out of Pocket is nice for the Flamer, because just a couple backstab kills and you can avoid the reload, which is like the worst part of it. But Thy Wrath Be Swift is fine. Good balance is still as good as it used to be. It's still 25% dodge or damage reduction all the time on a dodge. Sustained Assault is still just 20% melee damage all the time. Punishment versus Desperation. Desperation is great if you know you don't need your stamina. You can survive off your dodges, because it's very, very easy just to do this. And now you just get 20% damage for like 5 seconds. You could just do something like that. But Punishment is not terrible for the uninterruptible. You really shouldn't be banking on the uninterruptible. I prefer Desperation slightly over Punishment. But the more I play with Punishment, the more I also kind of like having uninterruptible just as a last resort. I don't know. Pick your poison. You should take the 10% melee attack speed nodes in every single build. Benediction is still Benediction. This new aura is cool, but it cannot compete with toughness damage reduction. Fury of the Faithful, still Fury of the Faithful. We're going to talk about you later. At another time. The weird guy in the room. And this is now different. Killing a specialist or elite within 5 seconds restores 20% cooldown. This is just really good. Like, there's just no way around this. This is just really, really good. And it kind of makes up for the loss in CDR you gain from all this other crap. If you just show this off here. You just immediately get a quarter of it back. And you can see it's almost back already. Now, you can see on my thingy there that you actually can sometimes struggle to keep the buff. It's not just like brain off, you can retreat from combat and keep the buff up. No, you do kind of have to like make sure you're nonstop getting those crits, and there will be some downtime on the ability. So it's not as spammable as before, but it still has like 90% uptime on the attack speed. Scourge is still Scourge, it's just been moved. It's still 30% crit chance for free. Blinded by Blood is 15% damage you just never used to get. Invocation of Death, look at how they massacred my boy. But this is basically always active, so this is just... Zealot basically just gets double cooldown regen compared to every other class. So it's really not that big of a deal. In fact, I kind of like this better. It definitely feels nicer sometimes. Enduring Faith got a little bit of a nerf, but here's what's really dumb. So, Good Balance didn't get nerfed. Benediction didn't get buffed, and Stalwart actually got buffed. I'm sorry, Benediction didn't get nerfed, and Stalwart, like, got buffed. You know, like, it's better now, because you can always take it. You don't have to go through the point taxes, so you can take this without any pain. So this is 25 toughness damage reduction. This is 40% toughness damage reduction. This is 15% toughness damage reduction. Well, after diminished scaling kicks in, you're still getting like 65, 70% fucking toughness damage reduction almost. It's like 50, it's anywhere from like, I'm trying to do the math quickly in my head and I should have written this down, but it's like 62%. It's like something like that. But here's the thing, right? This is a new passive, Hubris. So this is 15% flat damage resistance. This is 25% damage reduction. And you're getting this 25%, this 40%, and this 15%. So what's the deal? Zealot can actually reach like a higher total damage reduction number than he could before. You now just have to meet the threshold of getting weak spot kills while dodging. Okay, well, are we pretending like that wasn't what you were already doing all of the time? Another thing Zealot got is this. Push follow-up attacks grant 10% melee attack speed for 5 seconds. This is just nice. Like, there's just no way around this. Zealot, without Martyrdom, can now, like, attack almost as fast as Martyrdom Zealots could. So, that's cool. Fury of the Faithful, crit Chads rise up, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, Hubris is a new node, and Riposte is also new. So now you get 20% melee damage for dodging, and 15% melee damage for applying bleed. So this is 35% damage you just didn't have in the past. You could also grab Prime Target. Like, you could do this. If you don't want Thy Swift and out of pocket's not that good, you know, if you don't particularly care for Thy Swift like me, you can do something like this. And now you're getting another source of toughness replenishment. 10, 25, 45% damage that you were not getting in the past. And you're getting like 5% more total damage resistance than you were before. So, you know, also Stalwart. Before, Stalwart was just nice to have, but sometimes you had to choose between damage or taking this. But now you can just get like every single relative damage node and every single relevant toughness damage reduction node as well. I'm pretty confident this is what the meta is going to end up being for 90% of people. But I will say Zealot is just way weaker. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Zealot is actually walking away the biggest loser of this patch. Zealot and Psyker are holding hands firmly at the bottom of the tier list now. And honestly, Zealot is probably worse on average than Psyker, but he can still be really durable. But I don't know. Psyker didn't really gain much at all from this patch, but Zealot actively lost things, like the book got hella nerf. So just, you know, at least everyone's telling me you can't use the book in Havoc anymore. It sucks now. I'm going to have to investigate if that's true. It doesn't really matter, because why would you bring Zealot? Everybody just brings veteran RBDs if you want to win easily anyways. So, like, I don't really think it matters, but I don't know. This is clearly the best setup for just casually playing the game, though. That's, like, definitely unarguable. I definitely like the new Zealot tree overall. I think it's much better than his old one, but I don't know. I don't really have much else to say.